All right, so we finally made it. After we had to delay it for technical difficulties, I finally have my friend Luke Close on here. He's currently a senior at the University of Alabama. I'm very pleased to have him on this show. He was on here several months ago. I think it was either June or July to give a little SEC preview. And now here he is. He'll be coming on here every week to talk about college football, specifically the SEC. But we will traverse around the landscape of college football, if you will. Luke, I'm glad to have you on.
Hey man, thank you. It's been a long time coming. I wish we could have gotten it out before those technical difficulties. We could have gotten those figured out, but just a little kink on the computer that we couldn't quite figure out. And I'm glad that we figured it out through school actually. So hey,
And sometimes them classes they
right, they do better than
they
you
highlight
think.
they have a way of highlighting the inefficiencies. Like it can be a pain in the ass sometimes, but the classes, but they can highlight the inefficiencies. So you have to tip your cap to that. Now, speaking about inefficiency, we
Yeah.
we saw a lot of it this past weekend, as you usually do on week two. Alabama struggled mightily with
They
South
did.
Florida before I'd say they got into a rhythm in the fourth quarter. You were there, right, Luke? You were at
Oh,
the game.
I was there, and let me tell you, I was not a happy camper for 3 quarters of that game. Looking at some of the stats. Alabama had 120 penalty yards. Kalen DeBoer, after the game, said to his calculations, it cost us really about 180, 190 yards. So yards are hard to come by in high quality matchups. And USF is a team that coming into the year, I thought that they really had a chance to be that Group of Five team that maybe made the playoffs. Byron Brown, if he could have done anything through the air, which he showed a little bit of that last year, but I think just the atmosphere of Bryant-Denny really kind of rattled him a little bit. If he could have done anything through the air, I mean, you look at USF's offense on third down, 2 of 18 on third down, and they still drove the ball pretty well. So that's something that Alabama's going to have to work on as they face Wisconsin this week and former Miami quarterback Tyler Van Dyke, who they saw briefly back in 2021.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting matchup this weekend. I actually just finished making my video for that a few minutes ago, so I'll be getting that ready to post. But yeah, there were a lot of mistakes on Saturday, a lot of miscues, and I'll be honest, like that was speaking of South Florida's quarterback, if Byron Brown could have hit anybody,
yeah,
we'd be having a very different conversation today because there were a couple plays on post routes where they had receivers wide open. And if you're talking Alabama secondary, that's something that they very much have to get together. Leading into SEC play, when we're going to be seeing Tennessee and Oklahoma and LSU's receiving cores, and Georgia's, it's Missouri's. Somebody's got to guard Luther Burden.
Yeah,
so,
seriously.
It's just putting that out there.
I mean, you look at it. You have 3 fumbles. One is on the goal line off of a missed snap, and one is on a kickoff return that was already to the 40-yard line by 2 of your best players. Now, I'm not really quite sure whether it was on the center or Milrow just getting the snap off, but Alabama doesn't do a lot of under center work, so it's something you got to work on. But those miscues are something you can get away with against USF, not against Wisconsin, definitely not against Georgia, definitely not against Missouri. Also, you look at the penalty yards, and some of them were just, blatant holds. And you can't have that. You had 2 holes. Some of the holes were already open. The guy was past the line of scrimmage by the time the official even threw the flag. It's just simple mistakes. It's week 2, so I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. And I think one of the big things that I saw was USF driving late, down 8 points, decided to kick a field goal. So they clearly felt confident enough in their defensive scheme that they thought they were going to get the ball back and have a chance to go down and win the game again. No, do I agree with that field goal call? No, I would have gone for it 100% of the time. I think the analytics probably say to go for it 100% of the time in that situation. But it's just something to think about. And you bring Pritchett in, 3 touchdowns. So Pritchett was a little banged up, so we had a makeshift offensive line. I'm going to give the Alabama the benefit of the doubt on that. But yeah, it was not pretty, but it shows a lot about the team. They were still able to win by 26 points, even with all those mistakes. So still something to watch out for.
Oh yeah, and I kind of said that with NFL games this weekend too. If you can win sloppy,
right,
you can. You're a championship team.
Exactly.
You saw it with the Eagles last Friday.
Mm-hmm.
You saw it with the Lions on Sunday night, and you saw it with Alabama. Like if you can pull those games off where you're not your best, and you have all those miscues going on, you can still pull it off. That's impressive, and that's true greatness. So it's a vote of confidence.
And there were some teams that were not able to win sloppy this week.
Let's talk about that for a minute. I released a video about it last night. But let's talk about the Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
Oh my goodness, man! They were one of those teams that I thought coming into the year, I was like, man, if they just beat Texas A&M, they're gonna cakewalk their way into the playoffs. And you look at that, and you see Northern Illinois come in there, and they really dominated the game. I mean, they were better on third down. They had 190 yards on the ground against Notre Dame. I mean, when is the last time you've seen a team really control the line of scrimmage like that against Notre Dame? More time of possession, won the turnover battle. Riley Leonard was outplayed by Ethan Hampton, an Illinois product.
That's insanity.
The guy that they paid a lot of money to go to Notre Dame was outplayed by a guy who's been in the program for multiple years and trusted the system. And I think that just shows to show you the transfer portal, it's not always sunshine and rainbows. And we've seen that already with Florida State, and now we've seen it with Notre Dame. And I think we're going to continue to see it throughout this college football season.
Well, it's the business of college football, right? I mean, when you introduce a financial model like that to the league, those trends are going to start to take place, and I like to compare it to like the Deshaun Watson deal that happened with the Browns. I mean, this is the risk that you take. You can pay a lot of money, bring somebody in that has a lot of promise, has a good track record somewhere else, but have warning. These guys can not translate.
Exactly.
It can very well happen, and you're seeing that happen with Notre Dame. You're seeing that happen with Florida State right now. And I think that at first the optics about acquiring people through the portal was, okay, this is going to bolster our team quickly. And in some scenarios, if the fit is right, it does. But then there's sometimes where you'll bring somebody in that not only did he have a good reputation, not only was he sold well to Notre Dame, you saw what Riley Leonard was capable of in games with Duke last year. You saw how he performed against Clemson. On that Monday night game on Labor Day weekend last year, and no, for it to all just disintegrate for Notre Dame like that, it's a blow when you invest that much money into somebody and you're losing to a MAC team at home. And I love the MAC; I'm all about MACtion. But
absolutely love it on a Tuesday night. But if you're a Notre Dame fan, you don't want to see it on a Saturday night in your home stadium. That's all I got to say. I mean. But where do you think that the blame falls? Does it fall more on the players or the coaching staff? Or, I mean, because they were sloppy. They were beyond sloppy. It almost seemed like everything they did was a step behind what Northern Illinois is doing. With that amount of talent on the field, it's unacceptable. Here's what I said the other day in the video. I'll kind of resurface the point that I broke down. This is all psychological. Mm-hmm.
This is what Northern Illinois did on Saturday was the recipe for beating Power 4 teams if you're a G5. Because you already know going into it that you're being drastically outmatched physically and from a talent standpoint. So there's other things that you have to do to give yourself an advantage. And where do you resort to? The psyche, the mental. So what Northern Illinois was great at was getting Notre Dame flustered.
Mm-hmm.
And it's getting them out of a flow. They're out of sorts on offense. I have to credit Northern Illinois' defense for that. They're completely out of sorts. They really got their running back going. He was an absolute demon the other day. Ontario Brown.
Yeah.
He had 199 total yards.
Yeah.
Against Notre Dame. So if you can have a top player perform like that and fluster your Power Four opponent, you have a chance because then you put them in this mental box where they're overthinking.
Right.
And that's what Notre Dame did the whole second half was overthink. They couldn't score.
They did.
They literally couldn't score. But what I think that it was more so, and there's a lot to unpack about Notre Dame because it's that classic scenario of going from a monumental win against Texas A&M to then you're playing Northern Illinois at home, and everybody's assuming they're just gonna roll over them. Well, that wasn't really the case. I'm sure that that's part of it, but I just have to credit Northern Illinois for an absolute masterclass in how to beat a team that's better than them.
And I think that it goes down to I would say, early year feel-good story of the Northern Illinois coach's post-game interview where the man's literally in tears. You can see that these guys have stuck with the program. They haven't gone for bigger and better things. They've been in the system, and you could just see how much I blanking on his name right now, but you see how much he really cared for his players and loved his player, and he was a former player at Northern Illinois. So the love for the program was there. So I completely agree with you when you're saying the psyche. When it all comes down to attitude and mentality, and I think Northern Illinois really dominated the mental space on the gridiron on Saturday night.
No, they really did, and I have to tip my cap. And speaking of psyche, there's another game that I want to talk about on Saturday, and I haven't had enough time to make a video about this week. I wanted to, but it's just been crazy getting ready for the Cowboys opening game. Just kind of put out out right now.
Right.
Try my best over here, but I want to talk about Kentucky and South Carolina because I've got a little theory about that too, and I've heard this get discussed. So you remember the night of the Iron Bowl, back in November, rivalry weekend.
Oh yeah.
The cat came out of the bag that Mark Stoops was going to be the next head coach at Texas A&M.
Oh yeah.
They made the information public.
They did.
Turns out he wasn't actually the next head coach of Kentucky.
And it was considered a done deal.
It was done. It was finito. It was the cat was out of the bag. And once the general public knows, you're pretty sure it's done.
Right.
No. And so then he had to do that walk of shame back into the Kentucky program. And say, hey, I'm going to be your head coach again this year. And Luke, we're both men. We're both human.
Yeah.
If you're a player, how are you going to feel? Are you when a coach comes back in the building like that?
Man. So personally, you feel like you're second fiddle. You feel like you're second to them. This guy was A&M. The finances at A&M are known. They are able to recruit well. They've got a lot of boosters, a lot of ability to get the top players in the country. And it is undoubtedly a better job than the Kentucky football program, which also plays second fiddle to their basketball program. So if you're Mark Stoops, I don't know exactly what happened behind the scenes and why, if it was real or not, or if it was just a smoke screen or whatnot. But as a player, you're sitting there, you're like, you don't believe in me? You don't believe in our team? You just recruited me here. Especially the guys in the recruiting cycle, like we were talking about with Northern Illinois, the motivation factor. And I hadn't really thought of it that way as watching the game, but getting outclassed at home by South Carolina, a team that I think it was pretty much consensus bottom four in the SEC. That was an embarrassment to Kentucky. It's week 2. We'll see how they bounce back, but it's not like they've got a walk in the park coming up. They've got quite a few games, and I thought that even like the Auburn game was going to be tough for them, and that they still might pull that out. But after watching them last week, they're going to struggle to make a bowl game this year. If you're losing 31-6 at home against South Carolina, no, that is unacceptable. And if it really is something to do with Stoops and how motivated he is at the job right now and how motivated the players are to play for him, then yeah, it's going to be a serious problem going down the road for Kentucky this year.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Like the business of college football it's evolving so much, and we're starting to encounter scenarios that we hadn't before, because we had we hadn't seen NIL related issues before, and now like Florida State is becoming the perfect sample of a team that NIL is greatly impacting. Like you're seeing that team have more apathy, to being more disengaged. You haven't really seen that before, and it's because it's the mix of the team. It's how everything's congenializing together. Kentucky, I mean, I never saw coaches move around like this.
No.
In college football before. I mean, coaches would go on and take different jobs. Like Nick Saban went and took the LSU job after Michigan State. Like that always happened. But these coaches literally leaving the day after, or in Mark Stoops, if that went through the day of your last game. Like I hadn't seen this stuff happen before. Now it's allowed, and there's consequences with it. So we hadn't really seen one fall through like this, and so it's new. Just seeing this scenario and seeing how players respond to a coach pretty much being signed off to go somewhere else,
right,
and then coming back, or having a team that you recruited mostly based off of NIL, having them come together and not be a great mesh. It's interesting that the things, that's why this channel is called The Era, the things that we're learning about college football and the new business model of it.
And just going off that point, a game that I just really want to touch up on quickly is that Auburn and California game. I had to bring it up a little bit as an Alabama fan, but that's another program that we've been talking about, the NIL a lot. A lot of those guys are strictly there off NIL. I don't know. I won't say strictly there because I'm going to try to leave my bias out of it a little bit. Mm-hmm. But a lot of guys are there with known large NIL contracts, and the guy that isn't there is Peyton Thorne, and he has been there for a couple of years now. And are you kidding me? I mean, you as Hugh Freeze, how do you not make a quarterback change in that situation after he's? I mean, am I mistaken for saying that? Because I'm at the belief that if a quarterback is struggling that much against a team that you're better than, and he has last year, he didn't have the weapons. Cam Coleman, Keandre Lambert-Smith, Jarquez Hunter. You can't get it done against Cal Berkeley. I mean, it's unbelievable to me. I just had to bring that up real quick. I was curious about your thoughts on it.
Well, when it comes to quarterback changes like that, and I was thinking about this on Monday night last week when Florida State was taking on Boston College. DJU was struggling so bad that you almost have to take the players' confidence into effect, because pulling them can result in a loss of confidence. Keeping them in can result in an even worse loss of confidence, because if they're in and they keep on making mental errors, they're just going to get worse. They're going to dig themselves into a hole. So sometimes just taking them out of the situation, letting them sit there on the sideline, cool off, collect themselves, practice, get back on the same page, try them again the following week or the week after that. Mm-hmm. Sometimes when it comes to Hugh Freeze, that probably would not have been the worst decision with Peyton Thorne this weekend, because he's struggled tremendously. He's a huge reason why they lost to Alabama last year.
He really is.
Better quarterback in that game, Alabama loses.
Probably.
I mean, Alabama loses if it wasn't 4th and 31.
Yeah.
If they had a slightly better quarterback, Auburn wins that game last year.
And that's my whole thought process, because it's not like Thorne has proven that he's a world beater in any sorts at all. I mean, it's kind of hard for me to believe that the two guys you have behind him, Hank Brown and Walker White, couldn't have produced similar results on those drives where Thorne threw the interceptions. So I don't know. I've talked to a lot of my Auburn friends, not about this exact situation. They really weren't too excited to talk about the game after the game, and they weren't excited when I was asking for their thoughts on it, as non-condescending as it sounds. But yeah, maybe when they cool off a little, I'll ask their advice, because they know a little bit more about that program than I do. So,
no, I'm curious. I want to make a video about Auburn soon, just the trajectory, because I do believe in
make or break now
in Hugh Freeze and the vision that he has for the program. But I gotta give Hugh Freeze grace. He inherited what at the time was a very troubled program, and he's it's challenging to get that back on course.
When you lose at home, though, when you lose at home consistently to non-conference teams that you're not supposed to, I always say that spells trouble for your program. That is losing. You can lose a couple SEC games at home, but when you're losing to New Mexico State and California at home in a span of less than a year, trouble is brewing down on the plains.
That's fair. That's a fair assessment, and to bake into that, that dropping those games at home. It's one thing if you're going on the road against a superior opponent, like you're playing Georgia or you're playing Missouri or you're playing Texas A&M or Alabama. That's one thing, because when you stack Auburn up next to those teams are still superior from a talent standpoint right now. But when you're dropping these games that you shouldn't be, and it's because they're not coming together. It's not gelling.
And Jaden Ott really didn't even do very much. He wasn't very productive on Saturday. I mean, and that's California's best player. I mean, I don't know. It was just
it was perplexing. It was
a mess. Just a mess to say the least.
So we're gonna go into week 3 here to end this thing off. We got a couple more minutes here. Got the big presidential debate tonight that I'm sure our guarantors watching. I'll be flicking it on here soon. But this Saturday, well, actually, the weekend kicks off with Friday with Kansas State and Arizona. Friday Night Football, 2 ranked teams. That is one of my prediction videos I'll be coming out this week. Do you have any thoughts on that one, Luke?
So I watched a good bit of Kansas State on Saturday afternoon, early Saturday against Tulane. I wasn't very impressed by them. I really think they probably should have lost that game if Tulane could have not made a few mistakes towards the end of the game in the second half. Then you look at Arizona. It didn't look very impressive in week 1. They allowed 39 points to Dampier, which is he's a great quarterback. But, I mean, come on, let's be real here. 61-39 is not a recipe for success, especially going into the Big 12. But it's going to be interesting because this Arizona's first Big 12 game on the road against a team that was picked at the top of the conference. Personally, myself, I'm a huge believer in Fafita and McMillan. That connection's just insane. But I actually do like Arizona to win. I expect a high scoring game. I don't like Arizona's run defense, so I expect Giddens to get probably $150 on the ground. But Avery Johnson he doesn't do it for me. Alabama had an old basketball coach named Avery Johnson. He didn't do it for me, and neither it seems like the name is following suit with Kansas State. So I'm going to go Arizona. What about yourself?
That's fair. We'll have to see in the video this week. I'm gonna.
Okay.
I'm gonna keep it a mystery. Another one that I'm gonna keep a mystery here. Alabama and Wisconsin. What do you think about that one?
So first of all, I'll be actually traveling up to Madison. So I'll be in the stadium, making the long drive with a few of my buddies. So see how that goes. We better win because that's going to be a long drive back if we don't.
Well, that's right on.
But this is a game where I think that the line's 15.5. It's an interesting line to me. I think Alabama's a better team top to bottom, obviously. Tyler Van Dyke, not a huge believer in him. But, I mean, Wisconsin's going to do kind of the same thing that USF did. They're going to try to keep the game low scoring, kind of low pace. Like, they're going to try to play their style. I'm not too worried about the atmosphere of Wisconsin at Camp Randall. I mean, it's a great atmosphere, but, Milrose played a lot of big games. So the experience on our team should prevail in that atmosphere. Personally, myself, biasedly, 100-0 Alabama. No, I'm joking. Biasedly, we'll say 34-13. Unbiasedly, I'm going to say around 31-17. I think they'll probably put together a few good drives and they can run the ball well. I will say Justin Jefferson being suspended on that targeting for the first half is big. Played 20 snaps, 10 tackles on those 20 snaps. But I really expect Alabama to outclass Big Ten football. And I think that's most of the time that's what's happened. And Tyler Van Dyke, I think Graham Mertz is better than Tyler Van Dyke. So, take it for what you will.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Yeah.
No, that's another game that you'll have to await and see my prediction. Two little nuggets that I'll put about those games you talked about, the Arizona Kansas State game. I like the connection between Noah Fafita and Tedero McMillan. I think it's got to get more consistent.
Right. And somebody else has got to step up too. It can't just be those two.
It can't just be McMillan. But he had 304 receiving yards week 1 against New Mexico and 11 against Northern Arizona. So like just consistency. It can be so much. And if it gets going on Friday, look out. Kansas State is great at home. So I'll just let that be. I'll let that marinate. And then Alabama, Wisconsin. Alabama, and you can attest just from history, like when they go to an environment they're not used to, there's a little adjustment period.
Yeah, there is.
Like you saw it when they went to Austin a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little weird. Just when they went to Penn State years ago.
Yeah.
Just that little period of time where Alabama's a little uncomfortable. Like first quarter is going to be a struggle, I feel like. Yeah. And then they'll get into a rhythm.
That's where I think the second half will – I think it could be like a 14-6 game at half or something like that, and Wisconsin fans are going to start to settle in. Wisconsin's going to start to settle in, maybe give Milroe some headaches, give the OC some headaches, and then I think halftime adjustments is where Alabama will really shine. But also you got to remember that offensive line that we saw last week against USF, it will not be the same as it is this week against Wisconsin, so I expect a little bit more consistency there as well. Still waiting on the Proctor news. Hope he plays, but if he plays, he'll be a huge boost to the line as well.
Oh, absolutely. It sounds like we have another week or two to go.
And I think Georgia's probably the return date for him. They'll probably let him take the bye week as well, so it's another aspect of it. But, we'll see. It's going to be a good game. I really wanted to ask you about Boston College and Missouri. I've got
let's end with that as we're the time is starting to get you with the debate. I got to grill a pork chop too.
Yeah, you need your 30 minutes for that.
Oh yeah. I gotta heat that thing up here. Missouri and Boston College. Talk about that for a minute. I'll be honest. I like the way that at Boston College ran the ball against Florida State. I thought they think they have a very balanced offense.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're going up against a team like Missouri, it's deeper than comes to the naked eye, because when you compare, it's that comparison effect. When you compare Missouri to your Alabamas and your Georgias and your Ole Misses, they look a little bit thinner.
Mm-hmm.
Or when you compare them to a Boston College, you're going to see just how much depth is on Missouri. I think Boston College keeps this thing interesting. I thought Bill O'Brien did a great coaching job week 1 against Florida State. But ultimately, this is a Missouri team I feel like is poised to go 10-2 this year. And I think that they'll pull this thing off. I think it'll be a close game in the first half, but second half, I think you'll start to see Missouri widen that gap more. That's my gut feeling. I like Missouri in that game.
I'm going to also agree with you on Missouri, but I think they get it done in a lot easier fashion than I think that you've described. When I look back at Boston College week 1 against Florida State, I love the way they played, obviously. I mean, they won the game, they went on the road, and they dominated. But a lot of the reason they did dominate was because of the miscues from Florida State.
Mm.
Brady Cook, he's not going to miss those throws that DJ missed in the end zone.
That's true.
To the tight end. And they have not seen a receiver like Luther Burden yet. I think Missouri might blow them out of the water.
That's a good point, honestly. Like when you think about how many breaks Boston College was giving, like Florida State gave them a lot of breaks. Missouri ain't going to give you breaks.
And Missouri at home as well. If this game was being played in Boston College, I might give them a little bit better of a chance to win. But ultimately, and if you're a Boston College fan, can't ask for much more than to stay within 20 points. I mean, that's Missouri's bona fide top 10 team in the country. So don't get your hopes too down if you get blown out. Missouri's at a better part of their program. You got a first-year coach in Bill O'Brien. So, it should be a good game.
Well, I mean, Boston College is a growing program right now, and and Missouri is getting close to establish. And there's expectations with Missouri that are not there with Boston College. So they're just in two very different places right now. They're in two very different situations. So I think that you'll see that play out on Saturday as well. But I want to thank you for hopping on here today, Luke. This is a great conversation. I'm looking forward to doing this every week.
Yes, sir. We'll keep this thing rolling, and it's going to be exciting to see how the college football season unfolds. If it keeps going like it has through the first 2 weeks and week 0, then we're going to have a lot to talk about every week.
It was chaos. And as a college football fan, give me the chaos. I don't want predictability. Yeah, I want craziness.
Let's have a 2007 type season.
Please, I was going to say that. I want 2000 all over again. Please, just craziness, unpredictability. Just give it to me. I don't want to know who the championship matchup is right now. I want to go through a riveting story this year. So
absolutely,
pray for that.
Yes, sir. Roller coaster of emotions all year.
Well, thank you for hopping on, Luke. Have a great day, and we'll be back here next week, same place, same time.
Hey, make sure that pork chops cooked all the way through.
Oh, it's gonna be delicious. Nutritious.
I got you. All right, man. I'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, Luke. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir.